Evan Malik walked down the quiet hallway of Helios 9, the deep space research station where he had worked for almost 3 years. The lights flickered as they often did during power drops. But tonight the flicker felt different, longer, heavier, almost like the station was holding its breath. He checked the diagnostics tablet in his hand. Another power dip. Third time today, he muttered. Evan was a technician. The type of person who could fix almost anything on the station if given enough time and a good wrench. Helios 9 wasn't a big station, but it sat in a lonely corner of space, far away from patrol routes, trade paths, and anything that looked like excitement. Most days were slow. Most nights were slower, but tonight wasn't slow. A soft sound reached his ears like metal being brushed lightly, not enough to alarm anyone, but enough for a technician to notice. Evan stopped walking. He wasn't the type to get scared easily, but the sound came from the reactor bay, and that was a place where no strange noise should exist. He took a step forward, then another, keeping his senses sharp. The hallway dimmed again, as the lights dropped to emergency levels. The station hummed, in a low, uneasy rhythm. Evan reached the reactor bay door and pressed the manual override. The heavy metal door slid open halfway, stuttering for a moment before stopping. A faint, blue glow spilled out from inside. Great, Evan sighed. A jammed door on top of everything. He squeezed through the opening. Inside, the room looked normal, at least at first. The reactor core stood tall in the center, pulsing weakly like a heart that had lost its rhythm. Tools lay scattered on the floor as if someone had rushed through in a hurry. Then he heard it. A small, quick breath. Human? No. Too soft. Too fragile. Evan froze, trying not to make a sound. He slowly turned his head toward the shadows behind the coolant tanks. Something moved there, a small shape, curled tightly like a frightened animal. Hello? Evan said gently. The shape flinched. Evan took a step forward. The lights brightened as the power stabilized for a moment, allowing him to see more clearly. She was small, maybe the size of a human teenager, but clearly not human. Her skin had a faint lilac tone, glowing softly under the blue lights. Her hair was long and silver white, falling in messy waves across her shoulders. Her eyes, large and reflective like an animal's, watched him with raw fear. A young scifiaudiobooks, a species rarely seen in this part of space. And she was injured. A thin cut ran across her arm, glowing faintly. The scifiaudiobooks had bioluminescent blood, but the glow was weak, she was exhausted. Evan raised both hands slowly to show he meant no harm. It's okay. The alien girl pressed herself further into the corner, trembling. She made a soft clicking sound in her throat, like a warning. Evan had never met a scifiaudiobooks in person, but he had studied enough biology files to know one thing. Scifiaudiobooks were instinct-driven. They reacted fast, but they weren't naturally violent unless threatened. He crouched down at a safe distance. You're hurt. You shouldn't be here alone. I can help you. She stared at him with wide eyes that reflected every small movement he made. He took out a small medical patch from his toolkit and placed it on the floor, then slid it forward. This is for the cut. It's safe. She looked at it but didn't move. The lights flickered again. The girl's eyes narrowed, and she shifted as if preparing to bolt. That was when Evan made a slow, careful move. He stepped closer to check the coolant tank that she was leaning against. It wasn't stable. If it tipped, it might injure her more. She sensed him moving closer and reacted instantly. In a flash, the alien girl lunged, not in an attack, but in fear. Her hands gripped his sleeve, and her small, sharp teeth pressed into his arm. Not hard, not enough to break the skin, just enough to hold him in place. Evan froze. The bite stayed for 2 seconds. 3. Then she released him, backing away quickly. Her expression was different now, less fearful, more observant. He recognized the gesture from xenobiology briefings. A soft bite among Sarathay wasn't aggression. It was a mark of recognition. A way to signal, "You are not a threat." Evan exhaled slowly. "It's okay. I understand." She blinked at him, her breathing calming just a little. When he slowly picked up the medical patch again and offered it to her, she didn't run this time. Instead, she reached out, hesitated, then allowed him to press the patch over the cut. The glowing wound dimmed under the seal. "There," Evan said softly. "Better. Right?" The girl shifted her gaze toward the door and let out a tired croak. She was weak. She needed rest. And this bay wasn't safe. Evan stood. "Come with me. My quarters are close. You can rest there." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the gesture. He reached out his hand, palm up, the universal sign of peace. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand on his. Evan guided her through the hallway. She walked with small, cautious steps, scanning every corner with her sharp senses. The station lights flickered again, and each time they did, she jerked slightly but stayed close behind him. When they reached his quarters, Evan opened the door and stepped aside to show her the room. It was simple: one bed, one small desk, a chair, and a basic storage unit. Nothing fancy, but clean and quiet. The moment she stepped in, something changed. Her nose twitched. Her eyes darted around. She walked directly to his bed, touched the blanket, then let out a soft, satisfied sound. Before Evan could say anything, she crawled onto the bed, curled into a small ball, and closed her eyes. She had claimed it. Sarathay saw sleeping spaces as Den's safe zones, protected territory. By choosing his bed, she was announcing it as hers. Evan sighed. "Well, I guess that's your spot now." She made a soft chirp in response, eyes still closed. He didn't mind. She looked exhausted, like she had been running for a long time. Whatever happened to her ship must have been terrifying. Evan sat on the chair and watched her breathe softly. "What happened to you?" he whispered. "Where is your crew?" But she didn't answer. Moments later, the station intercom crackled to life. "Attention all personnel," the commander's voice announced. "Unidentified energy signatures detected near Helios 9. Possible Sarathay activity. Stay alert." Evan's stomach tightened. If the station detected Sarathay signals, they might believe she was a scout. They might want to capture or interrogate her. He glanced at the sleeping alien girl on his bed. She wasn't a threat. She wasn't aggressive. She was scared, alone, and wounded. And she had chosen his room, his bed, as her den. Evan made a quiet promise to himself. "No matter what happens, I'll protect you." The lights dimmed again, the warning alarms buzzing softly in the distance. Something large was moving in space near the station. Something powerful. But for now, the alien girl slept peacefully, unaware of the danger coming. And Evan sat beside her, ready to face whatever came next. When Evan woke up the next morning, the first thing he saw was a pair of large silver eyes staring directly at him. The alien girl, now a little less pale, a little more alert, was sitting cross-legged on his bed, watching him with silent curiosity. Her silver-white hair fell across her face in messy strands, and her lilac skin glowed faintly in the dim morning lights. She tilted her head, studying him like he was some strange creature. Evan blinked. "Good morning?" She narrowed her eyes, then let out a soft sound somewhere between a chirp and a whisper. She didn't understand the words, but she understood tone. Evan rubbed his face and sat up. He needed to start figuring out things. Who she was, where she came from, why she was alone. But first, she pointed at herself and tapped her chest twice. "Lisa," she said slowly. Evan froze. "That's your name?" The alien girl nodded firmly this time. "Lissa. Her voice was light but steady. It was the first clear word she had spoken. "That's a nice name." Evan smiled softly. "I'm Evan." She blinked, then tapped his chest the same way she had tapped hers. "Ivan." Close enough. Lissa shifted a little on the bed, pulling the blanket around her like a nest. Her instincts were strong. Sarathay always claimed a safe sleeping spot as their den, and she had chosen Evan's bed, without hesitation. A small noise escaped her throat, a gentle hum that meant comfort in her species. It was the first sign she trusted him. Evan stood and stretched. "Okay, Lissa. I need to figure out what's happening outside. Something big is approaching the station." Lissa's eyes flicked instantly to the door. Her nose twitched, sensing distant vibrations that humans couldn't detect. Her entire body tensed. She made 2 quick clicking sounds, warning sounds. "You sense something?" Evan asked, surprised. She nodded urgently. "Dark. Wave." Evan frowned. "Dark wave?" She pressed her hands together, then pulled them apart slowly, mimicking an expanding ripple. "Big, hungry. Comes." It wasn't perfect English, but the fear in her eyes made the meaning clear. Something dangerous was coming. The station reacts. Evan stepped into the hallway and headed toward the command deck. The lights flickered again, and the floor vibrated with a low hum. When he arrived, he found several officers gathered around the main display. The commander, Captain Rourke, looked like he hadn't slept. "Malik," Rourke said sharply. "Where were you last night?" "We had power fluctuations again." "I was fixing the reactor bay," Evan replied calmly. "There was something unusual down there." The officers exchanged looks. Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Evan hesitated. He didn't want to give Lissa away. But he couldn't lie too much either. "I found signs that something entered the station during the power dip," he said carefully. "Something small. Probably scared." Rourke folded his arms. "We picked up Sarathay energy traces." Evan's heart thumped. "Sarathay don't attack without reason, sir." "Reason?" Rourke snorted. "We don't need reasons. If a Sarathay infiltrated this station, it could be scouting us." Evan's jaw tightened. "Or it could be running from something." Rourke stared at him for several long seconds, then turned away. "We don't have time for guesses. Sensors show a large spatial distortion approaching. We need full readiness." Evan frowned. "Is it a ship?" "No," Rourke said grimly. "It's organic." That sent a chill through the entire room. Organic. Alive. Huge. Evan's thoughts instantly returned to Lissa's warning gesture. A big, hungry wave. She was telling the truth. Lissa's instincts. When Evan returned to his quarters, Lissa was no longer on the bed. She was standing by the door, ears perked, nose twitching. She hurried toward him as soon as he entered. "Bad," she whispered. "It comes." Evan closed the door behind him. The station detected it too. Something huge. Lissa took his wrist gently, guiding him to sit on the edge of the bed. Then, she placed her fingers on the side of his neck, sensing his pulse. "Fast," she murmured. "You scared?" He chuckled nervously. She shook her head, not because she wasn't scared she was, but because Sarathay didn't admit fear easily. Their survival instincts told them to stay alert, stay moving. Evan pointed to himself and said softly, "I'll help." Lissa's eyes softened. She pressed her forehead lightly against his arm, a Sarathay sign of trust and thanks. Then she pulled away and sat cross-legged in front of him. Lissa pressed 2 fingers to her temple. "I feel." Big noise. Space shakes. "Can you describe it?" She drew a large circle in the air. Dark mouth. Eats. Ships. Then she drew a zigzag line. Chases. Energy. Evan leaned forward. "You mean energy attracts it?" Lissa nodded. "Bright power. It hunts." Lissa. "Number dawn. It hunts." Evan swallowed hard. Helios 9 was full of high-energy systems. They were basically A beacon. He tapped his communicator. I need to tell command. But before he could speak, an alarm echoed across the station. Warning. Distortion expanding. All personnel prepare for impact. Lissa flinched. Then she grabbed his sleeve and pulled him down so their faces were level. Evan. She pointed at her eyes, then toward the floor as if sensing vibrations deep beneath them. It sees us. He stared at her. How? We're inside a shielded station. Lissa shook her head. It hears power, smells light. Evan didn't fully understand, but he knew enough. The creature could track them through energy signatures. He stood up. Then we need to turn the power down. Lissa nodded rapidly, pleased that he understood. Help, she said softly. You want to help me? Evan asked. Again, she nodded. She wasn't just a scared survivor. She wanted to protect the place that had given her shelter, and protect Evan, the one human who had treated her kindly. Command does not approve. Evan brought Lissa to a maintenance corridor where he knew the cameras were old and unreliable. She moved quietly, her steps light and instinctive like a forest creature. As they reached a junction, they encountered Officer Hallen, who stared at Lissa in shock. Hey! You, what is that? Lissa hissed softly and moved behind Evan. She's not dangerous, Evan said firmly. Hallen pressed his communicator. Commander, you're going to want to see this. Malik has a... Evan stepped forward. Listen, she's trying to help us. There's something out there hunting us. Hallen looked uncertain. That thing might be part of it. Lissa peeked from behind Evan, and with surprising gentleness, she tapped her chest. Friend, she said. The single word, spoken in her hesitant voice, caused Hallen to freeze. He slowly lowered his communicator. Did she just talk? Evan nodded. She's learning fast. Hallen hesitated. Then he sighed. Fine. But you better explain this to command. Evan knew that wouldn't be easy. Together, they moved quickly through the corridors until they reached the engineering deck. Lissa's eyes widened at the glowing reactor conduits. Too bright, she whispered urgently. Too loud, it calls it. Evan glanced at the power meters. She was right. The station was putting out a massive energy signature. If the creature was attracted to energy, we have to reduce output, Evan said. Hallen raised a brow. Without shutting down life support? Eh? Crow? Evan nodded. There's a way. A controlled dimming. Like lowering the volume. Lissa tapped a panel gently. Hide, she said. Hide light. Evan's fingers flew across the controls. He dimmed the non-essential systems. Rerouted excess energy into insulated storage. And lowered the reactor's external emission signatures. Lissa's ears flicked. Good. Quieter. But then, the lights flickered again. A heavy boom echoed through the station walls. The creature had arrived. Lissa froze, eyes wide and pupils narrow. It is here. A terrible arrival. Outside the station, the space around them bent and rippled as something enormous slithered into view. Helios 9's sensors struggled to describe it. But Lissa knew instantly. She whispered the name with shaking breath. Void Serpent. A creature older than memory. A predator of stars. And it was already searching for the brightest source of energy nearby. Helios 9. Evan swallowed hard. We need to shut down more power. Rum. Evan swam. Hallen looked terrified. If we dim the reactor any further, we risk total collapse. Evan turned to Lissa. What do we do? Lissa closed her eyes, sensing vibrations in the air. Then, she opened them slowly. Trap it, she said. Far away. Evan frowned. How? She placed her hand gently over his, guiding his fingers to the energy grid map. Make a fake den. Bright. Loud. It will follow. A lure. A desperate one. Evan stared at the map. He could do it, but it was risky. Still, This was their best chance. He took a deep breath. "Okay, Lissa. We'll try it." Lissa gave a small, fragile smile, trusting him completely. And Evan realized something important. She wasn't just a scared alien anymore. She was part of his team, part of his den. The void serpent moved through space like a living shadow. It was enormous, longer than the entire station, and its body shimmered with dark waves that bent light around it. Every time it moved, Helios 9's sensors glitched for a second, as if the creature was swallowing the signals. Inside the station, the atmosphere was tight with fear. Evan stared at the giant distortion on the monitor. "It's so big. How does something like that even exist?" Lissa stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on the console for balance. Her silver eyes never blinked. "Old," she whispered. "Very old. Before maps, before words." Hallen swallowed hard. "And it eats energy?" Lissa nodded slowly. "It follows light, follows heat, follows life." Evan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The station was full of energy signatures, reactor cores, engines, communication systems. It was like ringing a dinner bell for the creature. Lissa tugged at Evan's sleeve gently, pulling his attention back to her. "We must hide. Make it look away." Evan nodded. "We'll build the lure." Building the lure. The engineering deck was loud with alarms and tense voices. Technicians rushed around, trying to stabilize systems. The station shook slightly as the void serpent brushed against the outer shield. Inside the control room, Evan, Lissa, and Hallen worked together. Evan pulled up the power grid map. "If we can publish a fake energy signal away from the station, maybe it'll chase that instead." Hallen frowned. "But we need something bright enough to catch its attention." Lissa pointed at the maintenance pod bay. "Small ship. You make it shine very big. It will think it is food." Evan raised his brows. "We can overload a maintenance pod's power cell. Make it burn bright for a few minutes." "Long enough," Lissa said firmly. Hallen hesitated. "But someone has to launch it manually. The remote system is down." End quote. Evan felt a chill. That meant someone had to go out there. Lissa's eyes widened, and she quickly shook her head. "No. Too dangerous." Evan forced a small smile. "I won't be outside. Just inside the pod. Once it launches, I eject and return through the emergency shaft." Lissa stared at him for a long moment, her eyes full of worry. She reached out and placed a hand on his arm, not stopping him, but saying she understood. "You brave," she whispered. "But humans. Fragile. Leader. 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 Leader." Evan laughed softly. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." The creature gets closer. As they prepared the pod, the serpent drifted closer to the station. The lights flickered, and the shields shivered like thin glass. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. The creature hadn't touched the station yet, but it was close enough for gravity distortions to shake everything. Evan felt the floor vibrating. Lissa's eyes narrowed. "It smells us. Too bright. We need to hurry," Evan said, climbing into the small maintenance pod. The pod was cramped, just a single seat, a control panel, and a small escape chute. Lissa stood outside the hatch, watching him with rising panic. "You go, and come back," she said firmly. "Promise." Evan gave her a confident nod. "Promise." Hallen activated the manual clamps. Power overload set. Pod will shine like a small star for at least 6 minutes. Pod. "Let's hope that's enough," Evan said. Lissa leaned closer, tapping her forehead gently against his hand, the Serathi gesture for good luck. Then the hatch closed. The launch. Inside the pod, Evan strapped in and activated the launch thrusters. The pod shook violently as the clamps released. "Maintenance pod 03, launching," he reported. Through the small screen, he saw the massive shadow of the void serpent. its body twisted like smoke across the stars. Evan set the pod to full burn. The pod shot away from Helios 9, leaving a bright trail behind. The power overload activated automatically, and the entire pod lit up like a small artificial sun. The light burst was so bright, it created a glowing sphere around the pod. Inside, Evan squinted. That should get its attention. Lissa's voice came through the weak radio signal. Evan checked the rear cameras. She was right. The serpent turned its gigantic head toward the glowing pod. Its dark waves rippled faster. Then it lunged, swift and silent, as if space itself bent around it. "Come on, follow me," Evan whispered. He pushed the pod further away, guiding it toward empty space, far from Helios 9. The plan goes wrong. Everything seemed to work. Until the pod's engine sputtered. Evan's eyes widened. No, not now. The energy overload was draining power faster than expected. The pod shook violently. Lights flickering inside. Lissa's voice crackled through the radio. "Evan? Something wrong?" "Pod can't handle the overload," Evan said through clenched teeth. "I'm losing control." The void serpent was still moving toward him, massive jaws opening like a dark tunnel. Lisa's breath hitched. "Jump! Use escape!" Evan tried to activate the escape chute, but the system error flashed in red. "Escape system offline." His heart pounded. "Chute is dead." "Evan!" Lissa shouted over the radio, her voice breaking for the first time. The pod shook violently again, and sparks flew from the panel. The void serpent was right behind him now. He could see its enormous, swirling mouth on the camera. A spiraling dark vortex that looked like it led to nothing but emptiness. "Come on! Come on!" Evan yelled, searching for anything that worked. Finally, he slammed his hand on the manual release valve. A loud hiss filled the pod as the escape door burst open manually. The pressure sucked him toward the hole. Evan grabbed the emergency tether, pulled himself through the chute, and launched into space. The small emergency thruster on his suit activated automatically, sending him spinning into the dark void. Behind him, the brightly shining pod drifted helplessly, straight into the waiting jaws of the void serpent. The creature swallowed it whole. A blinding burst of light filled the darkness as the pod exploded inside the monster. The shockwave knocked Evan backward. His emergency thruster sputtered. He was drifting. Far. Too far. Lissa's instinct saves him. Inside Helios 9, Lissa watched the monitors with trembling fingers. She saw the pod swallowed. She saw the explosion. But she didn't see Evan return. Her breath quickened. Her senses sharpened. Her instincts screamed one word: go. Without waiting for orders, she bolted from the control room. Hallen shouted after her, but she didn't stop. Lissa sprinted through the corridors with animal-like speed, her bare feet barely touching the ground. She reached the emergency airlock and slammed her hand on the control panel. Unauthorized. The AI warning didn't finish before Lissa ripped the panel off with surprising strength and hot-wired the lock. The door opened. She grabbed an emergency thruster pack, strapped it to her back, and launched herself out into space. Her small form shot through the darkness like a silver streak. She scanned the void with her heightened senses, feeling vibrations, sensing heat signatures, tasting electromagnetic waves. Then she found him. A faint, struggling signal. "Evan," she whispered, pushing the thruster to its limit. Lissa reached him just as his small emergency thruster failed completely. His body was drifting away, slowly spinning, consciousness fading. She grabbed him tightly, pulling him close, and activated the return beacon on her pack. Hold, she whispered, her voice shaking. Evan opened his eyes weakly. "Lissa?" She pressed her forehead against his helmet. "I have you. I take you home." The beacon guided them back to the station. The light, flashing through the darkness. Behind them, the void serpent drifted in confusion, searching for more energy. But Helios 9 now glowed faintly, almost silent. The lure had worked. Evan and Lissa crossed the airlock threshold, just as the station's shield flickered back on. Lisa fell to her knees, still holding Evan protectively. The station was safe for now. The morning sun broke through the window blinds of Rafe's apartment, spreading soft, golden light across the room. Zanara lay curled at the end of his bed. Her tail coiled neatly around her legs, her silver-blue scales gleaming like polished metal. She slept lightly, her chest rising and falling with quiet rhythm. But her ears twitched at every small sound. Rafe woke slowly, blinking several times, before remembering that an alien girl had claimed his bed as her den the night before. He turned his head and found Zanara watching him with bright golden eyes, already awake. "You slept long," she said softly. Rafe stretched. "And you didn't sleep much?" "I rested," she said with a calm shrug. "Not all species need deep sleep. Besides, your den is warm." He blinked. "It's a bed. For humans," she corrected. "For Valari, it is a perfect den. High, soft, covered, smells safe." Rafe sat slowly, rubbing his face. "Right. So you're really staying with me today?" Zanara tilted her head, her voice calm and confident. "If you allow it." He thought about everything that had happened, the bite, the strange energy, the way she declared him her bond partner, the threat from other factions who wanted her. His life had gone from normal to unbelievable in just 2 days. But somehow he didn't feel scared anymore. Instead, he felt a strange responsibility, and something like respect. "You can stay," he finally said, "but we need to figure out what comes next." Zanara nodded. "Yes, the hunters will come again. They do not stop." Rafe frowned. "Then we need a plan. And we need help." Zanara rose from the bed with a smooth motion and stood in front of him. "Before we plan, you must know something." He looked up at her. "What is it?" She pressed her hand gently over the bite mark on his shoulder, the same spot where she had bitten him on the roof. The mark glowed faintly under her touch. "That wound," she said, "is not a normal wound. It is a Valari bond mark. It links us. It protects you. And it also gives you something else." Rafe raised an eyebrow. "Gives me what?" Zanara studied him for a moment, then said, "You have changed. Your body is stronger now. Your senses, sharper. It will continue." Rafe stared. "Are you telling me you gave me superpowers?" Zanara blinked. "That is a human word. But yes, a small version." He leaned back in shock. "Well, that's definitely something." She lowered her hand. "I bit you to protect you, not to change your life. But it is done now." Rafe exhaled, trying to process her words. "Okay. So hunters are coming. And I have alien upgrades. Great." Zanara sat on the edge of the bed, her tail wrapping neatly around her. "You are not alone," she said softly. "I will stay with you. I chose you." There was no fear in her voice. Only certainty. Rafe nodded once. "Then we stick together." The first threat of the day. The peace of the morning didn't last long. As Rafe made a simple breakfast, eggs and toast, Zanara suddenly froze, her ears twitching sharply. She lifted her head and narrowed her eyes at the door. "Someone is approaching," she whispered. Rafe stepped beside her. "The hunters?" "No," she said after a moment. "This one's steps are too light. Too careful. Like someone trying not to be heard." Rafe grabbed a kitchen knife. Zanara shook her head softly and placed her hand on his wrist. "Put that down. If trouble comes, I will protect you." He didn't put the knife down, but he lowered it. A soft knock sounded. Rafe and Zanara exchanged glances. Another knock. This time sharper. "Rafe! Open the door!" a familiar voice said. He blinked. His neighbor. Zanara relaxed slightly but watched with cautious eyes as he unlocked the door. Rhea stood outside, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. "Something weird happened last night," she said. "Your lights flickered like crazy, and your roof sounded like a wrestling match. So I came to check on you." Then she saw Zanara. Her eyes widened. "Oh, so you have a guest." Zanara stood tall, dignified, and gave a polite bow. "Hello, I am Zanara, of the Valari." Rhea stared. "Of the what?" "Alien," Rafe whispered. Rhea blinked at him, then looked back at Zanara. "Is this a joke?" Zanara opened her palm. A soft blue flame-like light swirled above it. Not fire energy. Rhea took a step back. "Okay, not a joke." Rafe sighed. "It's a long story." Rhea pointed at Zanara. "Is she dangerous?" "No," Zanara said calmly. "Not to Rafe." "That's not what I asked," Rhea whispered. Rafe rubbed his forehead. "Look, she's being hunted. I'm trying to help her." Rhea stared at him for a long moment, then said, "You need backup. Both of you. And I'm not going to pretend nothing's happening." Zanara stepped closer, studying Rhea. "You are brave, for a human." Rhea smirked. "I live next door to him. Courage comes with the rent." Rafe groaned. "Can we please focus? We need a plan." A new alliance. The three sat in the living room. Zanara explained the situation, how her people were split into peaceful groups and aggressive hunters, how she was part of the group that believed in cooperation with other species, and how the hunters wanted to capture her because she held knowledge about hidden Valari tech. Rhea listened with wide eyes but didn't interrupt. When Zanara finished, Rhea spoke. "So the hunters want her, and they'll track her, which means they'll come here." Rafe swallowed. "Yeah." Rhea looked between them. "Then we move first." Rafe blinked. "Move. Where?" "To someone who can help you," she said firmly. "My cousin works with the city's satellite array. He knows signal patterns. If these hunters are tracking energy signatures, he can help you hide your presence." Zanara tilted her head. "This cousin. Can he be trusted?" Rhea nodded. "He owes me, and he's too scared of me to lie." Rafe sighed. "I guess that's our best option." Zanara stood. "Then we go. Before the hunters come." The hunters signal. They didn't make it far. Halfway down the stairwell, Zanara froze again. "They found us," she breathed. Rafe felt his stomach drop. "How?" "They follow my energy. Even when I hide it, they sense very small traces." Her voice tightened. "They are close." Rhea grabbed Rafe's arm. "Back inside." Zanara shook her head fiercely. "No. If we run back, we trap ourselves." She stepped in front of them, eyes glowing faintly gold. Rafe felt the bite mark on his shoulder heat up, reacting to her rising energy. "Zanara," he whispered, "what are you going to do?" "Protect my den," she said in a calm, dangerous voice. Rafe blinked. "My—" She looked at him with soft certainty. "You are my bond partner. Your home is my den." Before he could respond, a loud, metallic sound echoed from the bottom of the stairwell. A figure in dark armor stepped into view, tall, broad, with glowing red sensors on its helmet. A hunter. Zanara exhaled slowly. "Stay behind me." The hunter lifted an arm, revealing a sleek energy weapon. Zanara moved before anyone else could blink. She launched down the stairs with a speed no human could match, slamming into the hunter with a force that cracked the floor. The weapon flew from his hand. They struggled, colliding with walls, sparks flying from their energy fields. Rafe could only stare. Zanara was smaller, lighter, but somehow stronger. Every move she made was precise, practiced, powerful. The hunter swung a heavy blow. Zanara dodged, grabbed his wrist, and twisted sharply. The armor sparked and bent. With a final strike to the chest, the hunter collapsed. Zanara breathed heavily but didn't fall. She stood tall, victorious. Rhea whispered, "Remind me never to fight her." Rafe rushed down. "Are you okay?" Zenara turned to him, golden eyes soft again. "I told you. I protect my den." A new beginning. After dragging the unconscious hunter to an abandoned corner of the basement, they hurried out of the building and into Rhea's car. As they drove, Zenara gazed out the window, watching Earth's streets pass by. "This world," she said softly, "is strange, dangerous, yet warm." Rafe smiled slightly. "You'll get used to it." She looked at him. "Yeah? Thank you for letting me stay, even when you were afraid." He shrugged. "You bit me and claimed my bed. It felt unfair to throw you out after that." She blinked in confusion. "I do not understand human humor." He laughed. Rhea rolled her eyes. "Both of you are impossible." But she smiled. Zenara looked at the two of them, her bond partner and their brave new ally, and she felt something she never expected to feel on a distant world. A beginning, not an ending. "I will make this place safe," Zenara promised, softly. "For all of us." And as the car sped into the horizon, Rafe believed her.